What's up, guys? It's been a while. It's June now. My season has come to an end, so I figured I'd get on here and make a video kind of going over a recap of the season, a recap of what baits worked, what lakes we fished, and just a little recap of the entire season as a whole. So I'm gonna start off by saying me and my partner fished, I think, 23 tournaments this season. We ended up winning 3 and top 20ing actually all of them, I believe, which has been a blessing. And then in addition to that, we finished the AOY standings in fourth place for one trail and 6th place in another 2. So can't complain about that either. Been a pretty good year. We expanded this year, tried some new stuff, traveling. We went to lakes that we'd never been to before, just to see how to set up on them, learn new fisheries, and learn new techniques as well. But it ended up being some of these new lakes we'd go to, techniques that we'd done at home and haven't been able to do in a while just because lake changes ended up prevailing on other lakes. For example, Lake of the Pines, we fished that grass fishery style, which was amazing. That was one of our wins. And then Lake Palestine, we got to fish it shallow with shallow crankbaits, which was also a really good tournament because that was another one of our wins. And those are just 2 things that I've always been pretty fond of doing, and I could say I'm decent at it. I'm not the best, I'm not the worst, but I can definitely catch fish doing it. Let's just hop right into it. The number 1 bait of this entire season was going to be a jackhammer chatterbait. Whether it's golden shiner color or a classic, some sort of red, I think this is chili craw. These baits got thrown almost every single fishery. If it was brand new to us, I had one of these on the deck. Majority of the time it was going to be this one, but new fisheries, chatterbait's my strength. I'd hit the shallows, start looking for grass, hydrilla, milfoil, really any good shallow water cover, stumps, cypress knees, you can throw that chatterbait around. These 2 chatterbaits actually were responsible for a win on Lake of the Pines in, I believe it was January or November, or January or March. No, January. It was January, February, or December. It's one of those months. Just in the middle of the winter, super cold. These jackhammers are just the best grass fishing bait. That's a jackhammer paired up with both of them have freeloaders on the back of them by Rapala, Crush City. As you can see, this one's pretty chewed. Top producing baits of the year. Definitely the most productive baits that I throw majority of the time, fun fishing or in tournament fishing, and a bait that I can lock in my hand and figure out a fishery with pretty quickly. So a jackhammer is always going to be my go-to when I'm breaking down new lakes, and even going to old lakes, fishing history. If there's grass or any sort of shallow water cover that I think they might be in, I'm picking up these guys first. And like I said, you can fish it any shallow water cover. I will throw it in stumps, sticks, grasses, lily pads. I'll skip them up under docks, throw them on riprap. It's a super versatile bait. You can do a straight retrieve, you can do yo-yo, you can even fish it like a jig and drag it, and then every now and again reel. That's a little something sneaky, but that bait was particularly good on Lake of the Pines this year, and then Sam Rayburn as well. So that bait led to a win. And then our next bait up is the 6 Sense Hush Frog. As you can see, this guy, he's pretty chewed too. He was responsible for a win on Rayburn this year. It was September, we were fishing haygrass. This guy was getting munched. This frog played a big role in a bunch of tournaments this year though. We got 3rd place in a championship with it, and then also this was a key bait on the Sabine River, believe it or not. Had a really great practice on this, found out where we could catch some fish, and then some stuff changed tournament day. But anyways, this was a great bait for the Sabine River, great bait for shallow water cover like Rayburn has, great bait for Lake of the Pines. I went back to Pines for a championship through this. Not as successful with it as I was initially on Rayburn, but still a great bait. I'm throwing this around pads, stick-ups, shallow water stick-ups, cypress knees, hydrilla mats, button bush. Anywhere I see something that is overhanging in the water or creating some sort of shade line, that's where this guy's going. I really like this frog. You can walk it in place. It's a small profile. It just straight up gets bit. This color, super bluegilly. I don't like throwing white. Just feel like it's a little bit overused. I mean, they're so used to seeing bright white. And plus, when you've got a little bit of cleaner water, like I was seeing at the Sabine River, like you see at Rayburn, like you see at Lake of the Pines, like you see on Cedar Creek, you're gonna need something a little bit more natural, whether that be shad or a baitfish sort of color, or this bluegill, which is my go-to. I do the same thing with a swim jig, bluegill swim jig instead of a shad swim jig most of the time, unless I know I'm around shad. Just something I do. But this bait was great, led to a win on Rayburn, led to some other success, a third place finish in a championship on Rayburn. So needless to say, I love throwing this bait around hay grass, stumps, little button bush, isolated button bush clumps. It's just a great bait all around. You can cover water with it quick, you can cover water with it slowly, you can just work it in place, you can kind of slap the water with it, kind of make a popping action. It's a really versatile frog. And then leading into the next bait is a Rapala DT6. This is in Helsinki shad is what I think the color is called. DT6. This one led to a win on Lake Palestine, actually, our second win of the season. Throwing this around shallow riprap near like secondary ledges. And this bait's awesome. This is a bait that's just like the jackhammer. I can pick it up, and if I want to go break down a lake that I think is going to be a shallow fishery, this is the bait I'm going to do it with. Just such a great profile, little shimmy. It's balsa, so I like a balsa over plastic crankbaits, shallow crankbaits. You got the little skinny bill, and I think it's like a 2.5 or 3 inch bait itself. So really good profile, great colors. Hooks are good on its stock. We caught, when we went to Richland Chambers this year, that was our key bait. When we went to Cedar Creek the first time, that was our key bait. And then when we went to Lake Palestine, that was our key bait. So 3 tournaments it played a huge role in. One of them we won, another one we got 5th in, and then another one we didn't toot pretty hot. But nonetheless, it caught fish. Great bait, comes stock ready to go. Really versatile bait. I'm throwing that around riprap, I'm throwing that around docks, shallow wood. I'm not throwing it as much around grasses like hydrilla or lily pads or hay grass, but it definitely can play a role in hydrilla sometimes, but not anything like a jackhammer or a rattle trap can, in my opinion at least. But the DT6 and DT8s, both of them played a major role this year. Actually, something a little sneaky that we did with them is we scoped them too. DT6 is a really great profile for scoping. You can stop it and it'll pause in their face, and then you can burn it again, and that little 3 inch profile just shimmying right by them really gets them fired up sometimes, just a stop and go retrieve right in front of their face. Did that with the DT8, DT10, and DT6. Never did it with the DT4 because there weren't floaters that shallow ever, but I'm sure it would work. Like I said, that's something just a little sneakier that not a lot of people are doing scoping, but that doesn't matter. It's scope fish are getting smart anyways. But yeah, like I said, this bait was better for our, I guess, metro style lakes. Lakes that had a lot of docks, a lot of riprap. They had hybrid bass, white bass, catfish in them were their primary fish. So the bass in those lakes generally got shallower because they don't want to compete. I mean, they will compete against the big hybrids and catfish, but generally the majority of the population is not going to want to compete against them, or at least in my experience. And that's where I pick up the jackhammer, a flipping bait, or a DT6 and get to work up shallow. This is a great search bait. You can cover lots of water with it fast and effectively. It'll dredge the bottom in 6 foot of water, so they did a really good job, DT6. I don't know if you can see this one, but it is pretty chewed. It was just a hammer of a bait this year. Basically everywhere we went but Rayburn and Lake of the Pines, caught fish in practice on this, just trying to break down the new lake. Toledo it worked really good on as well. I forgot to say that about the jackhammer and the frog. We went to Toledo Bend twice this year, and the jackhammer, the frog, and the DT6 all played a huge role. Matter of fact, all of the baits that I'm showing played a huge role in Toledo Bend. The next bait that we've got up is going to be a jerkbait. This jerkbait was thrown more on the scoping side of things. This is a 6 Sense 97 DD or 97 SI or a 106. I'm not sure. Just a normal size provoke jerkbait in this kind of like a matte blue color. I can't remember exactly what it's called. You'll notice it's a silent, and I've got lead wire on it. So this was my go-to scope bait that wasn't a minnow. They're kind of getting wise to the minnow and jerkbait now, but during this season, this bait in particular played a huge role. This bait was responsible for 2 bags over 25 pounds in practices, and then tournament days, it was responsible for, I think, 3 or 4 bags over 14 pounds. So that'd be an 18-pound bag, a 17-pound bag, and a 16-pound bag. We're all done on this bait. Great bait. Comes stock with good hooks, great action. No complaints here about this bait. I do wish the color, or one complaint, I do wish the color was just a little bit more matte and less flashy. However, it's such a good bait that it doesn't really matter. It stays getting bit. This is my 3rd one of the season. It's brand new. That's why there's no teeth marks on it, but it is just a hammer. This was thrown a lot around timber, a lot around rock, suspended fish right under the surface, and then also during the fall, a lot of fish around bait balls. They'd sit on top of the bait balls, not deep in them, and kind of just pick them off from the top. And this jerkbait, you could sink it down or you could reel it down deeper just because that lead wire. I didn't throw a DD with lead wire just because I didn't want to go too deep. And this bait got where it needed to. It got bit lots and lots of times, and it got bit by some big ones. I caught a 9-pounder on it this year, but not this specific color. That color is going to remain a secret. But such a good jerkbait. Hooks are super sticky, super sharp. You don't lose any fish with these. You don't jump any fish with these, which I've had problems with jerkbait hooks in the past, even though jerkbaits don't weigh much. But this was one of my go-to baits. No matter where I went this year, I can throw it over a hydrilla, take the weight off, throw it over hydrilla. You can throw it up shallow. If you put some little foam strip on it, you can scope with it. You can throw it in riprap. You can throw it on docks. I did fish a lot of hydrilla with it this year, actually, scoping. You can scope the hydrilla or taller milfoil piles with this. You can throw it over brush piles, was also really good in late summer, like September. This bait was a huge player. And since we're on the scope side of things now, I'm going to go ahead and move it into my minnow. I threw many different minnows this year just because different fisheries require different bait presentations, but the one that I kept going back to a lot of the time was a Rapala Crush City freeloader. I throw this on a owner range roller head. That freeloader, just like it's on the chatterbaits, it's got a lot of tail action, a lot of tail wiggle. It kind of rolls really, really good. I caught countless fish over 6 pounds this season on it, in tournaments and also in just practices and fun fishing. This bait is my go-to scoping bait. This is what I will have on my deck. No matter what lake I go to, this bait is on my deck. Everywhere, every time of the year. Grass fishery, not a grass fishery. I've caught fish in 2 foot of water on this, and I've caught fish in 60 foot of water on this. This bait is very, very versatile, and it can be thrown on the back of a chatterbait. It can be thrown on a scrounger. It can be thrown on a jig head. It can be thrown similarly to a fluke, which I've done and caught some fish on it. But this is my favorite way to rig it, and this is like the go-to scope bait for me. Like, even just holding it here, you can see that tail won't stop moving, that head won't start wobbling, and it just rolls really, really well. Side to side roll. Not a lot of head wiggle when it rolls, but a really good roll. And then since I've got another one out, I'll show you another minnow that I threw this year. Was on a Gamakatsu Horizon jig head, and this is the 6-inch juggle minnow. Very generic minnow, just like the freeloader. I don't think you've got to go to extreme lengths to find some special minnow that no one has found. Although I do throw some like that, I think these just staples. They're staples for a reason. Just like every bait that I've shown, you can still catch them up shallow, even if you're scoping, not scoping. I scoped some up shallow. I mean, this frog, everything that I threw, you could say was a scope bait. I didn't particularly go out trying to scope with it, but I ended up scoping with this frog, scoped with the chatterbait, scoped actually a ton with the DT6, which was kind of a surprise to me. I figured that out in about November through the season, and I just did it throughout the rest of the year. And timber is really good. Same with the minnows and the jerk bait. Those are timber baits. Those are pile baits. For the most part, I would say our tournaments this year were split. What we did, probably 50-50 scoping and not scoping. And if we were scoping, if we were not scoping and we were shallow, I still would utilize scope every now and then, catch a few fish, or just kind of see what was going on beneath the surface. Not particularly to target individual fish, but to kind of see what I was looking at, what grasses, what piles, or what timber, what they were relating to, how high they were in the water column. I just found this on my deck. This is another bait that played for us this year. That's just a typical jig. Any jig will work. You just do some stuff with the jig. You can scope with it. You can flip with it. And it didn't play a very big role in our tournament season, but it played a big role in practices just because it's also a very versatile bait and something I have confidence in, something I can lock in my hand and know I'll get bit eventually, fishing it somewhere or another, whether it be flipping it, dragging it, hopping it, skipping it, swimming it, shoot a bladed jig like a chatterbait. There's just so many options you can do with such simple baits to break down each body of water. And that leads me to my next thing, is what kinds of bodies of water we fished this year. So this year, I believe that we fished Richland Chambers, Cedar Creek, Lake Palestine, Lake of the Pines, Toledo Bend, Sam Rayburn, and the Sabine River. Those are all decent fisheries. Probably my favorite ones were Pines. Pines for sure, because that was a great win. Pines, the Sabine River, which Sabine River gets a lot of hate, which I think is unjustified. And then just Rayburn. Rayburn's a good one. Love being on Rayburn. Love fishing the schools. Love fishing the haygrass. Love fishing the timber. So in those lakes, we had, my phone's about to die. We had what I call metro lakes. So that's going to be Richland Chambers, Cedar Creek, Palestine. These are lakes with a lot of docks, a lot of riprap, giant population of hybrid white bass and catfish and crappie. So these fisheries tended to fish more shallow, as in like dock or riprap sort of deals. So those lakes were decent to us. We won on Lake Palestine. Cedar Creek, we've just now recently started figuring out right before the state tournament. And then Richland Chambers, we did decent at, just about middle of the pack. That's lakes where the DT6 would really, really shine, just because this profile, the versatility. I fished it on docks, fished it on riprap, actually won off of riprap, sort of related to docks and ledges, really shallow, like 3 foot of water in the middle of winter. And then the other set of lakes, we got 2 more sets of lakes, or 1 more set of lakes, and then we'll just call the Sabine River. Another lake that we have fished or lake style that we fished, was your typical grass timber lakes. So that's Rayburn, Toledo, Pines. Got tons and tons of grass, tons and tons of timber. You can fish basically however you want to, fish it free. We won 2 tournaments in the grass this year, 1 in haygrass, 1 in hydrilla, 1 on Lake the Pines, 1 on Rayburn. And Toledo didn't win, but we got 2 top 10s, I believe. So that was pretty good. And other than that, those lakes fish relatively similar to each other. They make big schools out in the summertime. In the wintertime, you can generally find them in shallow grass or grass in general. You can scope the timber in the wintertime. You can scope it probably all year, mostly not in the summertime though. They'll slide out deeper into those schools. That's my favorite type of lake to fish. I love the timber. I love the grass. I love the clay points. It's just awesome. Little ledges, subtle ledges, hard bottoms. That's the type of fisher that I want to fish. Anywhere I go to, that's where I want to be. And then the Sabine River is just a whole nother animal. Down there, we were expecting low weights, but our tournament actually got one with 17 pounds, which after practice seemed very reasonable. In fact, I possibly thought we were going to have a 20-pound bag or 18 or 19 weighed in the tournament. But we got about 2 foot of rain right before, or actually the night of the tournament, so that changed everything for us at least. Some other kids did really well, and that's great for them, because catching 16 pounds on the Sabine River is not an easy feat to accomplish at all, and that's just a really big deal. But that's like a season breakdown for you guys. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, or just want to see more videos like this. I'm going to keep pushing them out just because I need to grow my following a little bit more. But that's just an insight on how we fished this year, what we fished, and kind of where we did it in East Texas. We had a great season. I want to thank everybody who made it possible, whether that be my parents, my sponsors, my coach, the tournament directors. You can't do this without a bunch of great people behind you, and that's just a huge part of the sport. But we had a great season. We're going to try to keep it up next year for our senior season, hopefully win an AOI title or a few more trophies, and we will see. Thank y'all for watching.